Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another Q&A for you, and I've got some great questions this time to answer, so I'm looking forward to answering them. And don't forget, if you want to see another episode of this, to put some questions in the comments for me. Really appreciate it, because obviously these videos can't happen without those questions. I'm going to put a link to all of the channels that I mention in the description, so please go and check them out, see if there's anyone on there that you're not subbed to already. Go and give them a sub, and let's get on with it. So the first question is from cruorangelussilicis, Mike. Thank you for your question, Mike. What are your ultimate hobby goals? Which is a fantastic question, actually. I suppose my ultimate goals are to finish painting my armies, literally. All of the models that I've got which are unpainted, I want to get them painted, and that's what I'm striving for. And once I've achieved that, obviously, yes, I'm going to be buying more models and adding to the armies, but that would be just like buy a model, build it, paint it, job done. So I'm going to say at the moment, I know I've got like a lot of stuff to paint, but once everything is done, I'm looking forward to moving on to being able to just paint for fun as such. I'd like to get involved with the community a little bit more and painting like single miniatures up for people. Not necessarily like commission work, being paid for it, but just to spread the love as such within the community. I think that would be awesome to paint a few minis up for people, like I did that zombie, from Mike Scott's, and that was really cool. I enjoyed doing that. So I'd like to be in a position where I haven't got like a huge commitment of my own stuff, to be able to do things like that. That's really cool. I'd like to enter a few more painting competitions. There is one coming up, my local GW, in August. I'm going to enter one of my, it's like a unit, so I'm going to enter one of my Space Wolves units, see how that gets on. I'm probably going to enter more competitions as much as I can, painting wise, because it is interesting to see how you like stack up against everyone else. So hopefully that's answered that question. Modelling loonie. What kind of music do you listen to while painting or putting models together? I don't listen to any music when I'm doing a hobby. I usually just have the telly on in the background. Or if not the telly, I usually have the YouTube videos on in the background. Music wise, I'm a huge Prince fan. I've been a Prince fan since '87, when the Sign of the Times album came out. Got introduced to Prince by a friend, and never really looked back. Got a huge Prince collection, but I daren't put it on when I'm painting because I'll just be singing to the songs. I can't sing to save my life, but I enjoy singing along to the songs. So I just wouldn't be able to paint because I'll just want to sing. So yeah, I don't listen to music at all when I'm painting. To be fair, I don't listen to music much now because I cycle to work, and yeah, okay, you can buy the little headphone things, but I don't like using that when I'm on my bicycle. When I used to like car to work, I used to have it on in the car. But yeah, I don't actually really listen to music that much, to be fair. The next question is from Joshua Swann. My question is, if you had to have a pint with one 40k character, who would it be? Who would I have a pint with? This is quite a hard question. I did think about this for a little while. I am going to say Imhotep the Stormlord. And the reason for that, I think he would have some pretty cool stories to tell over a pint. I can hear it now. That one time when he was playing this Tyranid army, all these like flying monstrous creatures coming towards the Necrons, and he used his storm and managed to wound like 3 of these flying monstrous creatures, and seeing Aceface's slightly worried face. I'd imagine him telling me stories like that. Yeah. So I'd say Imatech, the Stormlord. Next question is from Tory Ling. If you was an art museum and you could live in a painting or a drawing for a day, which one would it be and why would you pick it? I wouldn't find myself at an art museum, but if I had to live in a picture, to be fair, nothing really comes to mind. My dad was a huge fan of Vincent van Gogh, excuse me. So I might just pick one of his paintings just because it's part of my dad. So I'd say one of Vincent van Gogh's paintings. Anyone would do. Probably the boat scene. Yeah, the boat scene. I think, isn't it at night time, the boat scene, of memory. But yeah, Vincent van Gogh. Farseer Dodo. Do you play any first-person shooters? If so, which is your favourite? First-person shooter games, I'm assuming, is computer things. You know, where you've got like a gun in front of you and you go around the screen shooting things. No, I'm not into gaming at all, as in like computer games and stuff. I do own a PlayStation 2. I've got a few games, but I really don't play it, to be fair. The only real game that I actually like is the Lego films. Lego Star Wars came with the station, and that's an awesome game. I like the Lego Star Wars 1 and 2. I have Lego Indiana Jones, which is pretty good, but I prefer the Star Wars. And I do have Lego Batman as well, which is again pretty cool. But I think the Lego Star Wars games are the ones that I like the best. But I'm not really not into these like first shooter type games. I'm useless at games as well. Don't have to forget, I come from like the space. I grew up on Space Invaders. Yes, I am that old. You know, the real simple platform type games. That's what I grew up on. These new games, it's just so complicated. I've got what is it called? Minority Report for my PlayStation, and I can't get out of the first chamber. I put it on. I played like half an hour, and I'm stuck in like the first room. It was like, why? It's just they're so difficult to play sometimes. Either that, I'm just so stupid at playing them, which could be more the case. But yeah, so I don't really have a favourite because I don't really play them. Sorry. Next is from James and his stuff. Do you like Lord of the Ring Minis? Well, I certainly don't dislike them. I don't pay too much attention to them, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike them. I don't necessarily want to get any. I haven't really got much feelings about them, to be fair. You know, I know people like Lord of the Rings stuff, and that's cool. And from what I've seen, the models do look actually quite good. But yeah, do you like them? I don't dislike them, so I must like them. So yes is the answer. The next question is from UnitedWarGamer. Would you paint a small Warhammer fantasy army, and if so, which model or army would it be? Yes, I'd be happy to paint a little force if I needed to. Obviously things are different now with the age of Sigma and stuff, but if I moved house and I got this new gaming group and they were playing Warhammer Fantasy whatever edition, and I was in that environment where, you know, I could build a little game force and play the game because everyone was there playing it, then yes, I would do that. I think I've already said I'd go for lizard men because I think the minis are pretty cool. So yes is the answer. I would actually do that if I had a need to or a call for it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to do it because, as you already know, 40k is really where I'm at. So the next question is from 33 Claydog. What's your favourite 40k war machine and why? Okay. Once again, I'm not really into the war machines. I don't tend to pay too much attention. Mainly because I have my Necron Pylon, which I've had for many years, probably 10 years, and I think I played it twice. I'm just not in that gaming environment where I could play it, basically. So there's sort of no point in me getting a Titan because I probably wouldn't be able to play it. And obviously I can't afford it either, that's another thing. But I mean, the ones out of the ones that I've seen, I think probably the Eldar Titans. I don't really know all the names, but if I was going to get one, I'd get the biggest one, whatever that is. I think it's the Phantom Titan. Yeah, I like the Eldar ones, I think. They're pretty cool. And I think one of those in purple and white would look cool. Yeah. So thank you, Clayton, for that question. Mini Warzone. Do you ever read any 40k novels, and if so, what are your favourites? Also, you mentioned the Karate Kid movies. So, may I ask, what is your favourite scene from these movies, excluding the crane kick at the end of the first one? Okay, so do I read any 40k novels? No, I don't. My reading is solely dedicated to reading Star Trek books, as I've said in a couple of other questions. I've got like 550 books, I'm just wading through those. I really enjoy the Star Trek books. Maybe one day in the future, but I don't know, I'm just not into the 40k fluff so much, so I don't know that the books would bring an awful lot for me. So no, I've not read any, so I don't have a favourite. Okay, what is my favourite scene in the Karate Kid movies? Doesn't include the crane kick. That's pretty easy to answer, that one. It's going to be when Daniel-san discovers why he's been working so hard by Mr. Miyagi. Show me, paint that fence. And goes, whoa, whoa, like that, whoa, whoa. Yeah, that's brilliant. When he actually, when he finally realises what he's been doing, and he's like got the moves. That's a great scene. Love that scene. And that was one scene which I think was slightly disappointing in that the new remake with Will Smith's son in. Yeah, that scene, that's sort of, when he realises it just didn't have the impact as the originals. The next question is from Daniel Gibbons. I've got it down as Daniel Gibbons here because I printed this off of my previous video. He does have a change of channel name now, but I can't remember what it is. Is it Orc something Dan? Or I'm not sure. Sorry, Daniel. But Daniel Gibbons, you'll see the link in the description below. Anyway, his question is: what advice would you offer to someone thinking of filming battle reports for their channel? Now this is a great question, and this is actually a video which I've potentially been thinking about making for quite some time. Now, obviously I have my fixed style of battle report, which possibly nowadays is a little bit out of date, because when I was making videos, originally you could only have like 10-minute videos. So I always made my battle reports to be within 10 minutes. Now, of course, people are making battle reports, 2-hour battle reports, and I see a lot of people do enjoy that, but I don't have the inclination to make battle reports like that. I like my quick, sharp battle reports. I like the format, and it works for me. It works for me from the editing side, from making the battle report during game, especially if you have an opponent that doesn't want to be on camera. But yeah, I do have a few tips. So the first thing is lighting, because lighting is very important. Now, if you're in a room with light, for example, say if you were at home and got a tungsten light, like a normal household bulb, then on your camera, don't forget to set the white balance to cope with the tungsten light, because if you watch a lot of my earlier videos, battle reports, they were all like had this yellow tinge, and that's because I didn't have the white balance set. So that was the first thing I discovered. Then I took that slightly further and I got myself a little LED video light, which I use for my battle reports, which lights up the whole of the board, which is fantastic. And running alongside that is make sure you've got a camera with a nice wide-angled lens, because again, if you look at my first battle reports, my camera wasn't particularly wide, and it was more difficult. I found myself like moving like around the table and trying to talk about what happened, and it just doesn't look very good. Now my current camera, I can have back and I can like point this there and there, and I can move in and out obviously if I want to, but it just makes life so much easier having a wide angled lens. So make sure your camera's got a wide angled lens, and then it's just finding the format that suits you. I started off recording like the first turn, my first turn, and my opponent's first turn, my second turn, my opponent's second turn. No, I didn't start off. That's how I do it now. I started off with my opponent and I having turn one, and then I videoed it. And I found that was just too complicated, so I ended up doing like my turn, my opponent's turn, and just giving like an overview. And it just works for me, and like I said, it's finding a format that works for you, not only in being able to record it, but being able to edit it. It takes me about 5 minutes to edit a battle report. My very first battle report that I did took me about 6 hours to edit. So yeah, just find something that suits you really. So battle reports, I think that's it really for advice that I've got at the moment that I can think of. So hopefully that was useful. Next question is from Skarnir. What do you think of the hobby as it stands? No specialist games, Warhammer Fantasy reboot, and the power creep in 40k, etc. So this is another fantastic question. So what do I think of the hobby as it stands? No specialist games. Well, let's talk about that. Because again, I was going to make a video on this actually. I've had some ideas for videos, I just haven't got around to it. No specialist games. Although that is sort of disappointing, actually now I'm changing my mind. I think that's really good that there's no specialist games. And the reason for that is, I think specialist games are awesome. And as you know, I've been recently playing Man of War. And I tell you what, when I'm playing that game, it's like a relief that I'm playing a game that I know GW are not going to touch. The rules are there, they're fixed. Anything that's not quite balanced, you can have house rules for. And yes, okay, there's going to be no new models, there's going to be no new updates and stuff, but in some ways that's good, because you know where you stand with the game. There's going to be no more money to spend on the game unless you obviously need to get more models. And yes, if you do want to get more models, it's expensive. It's like, I've got obviously my Eldar Battle Fleet Gothic army. I really want to get a Necron army and a Tyranid army. Not army, fleet, ships, whatever. And yes, it's very expensive if you look on eBay. But then that's sort of half the fun, isn't it? Finding a bargain. So I actually like the fact that GW can't mess with those specialist games now. And I suppose arguably, I think that would be one way, one positive thing about the Age of Sigma coming out, is that anyone who does have the original fantasy, I mean, they can play. I don't want to stir things up here because everyone's got their own opinions, and I've never played fantasy, I don't know anything about it, and obviously if this happened to 40k I'll probably be talking from a totally different page of the book. But I'm sort of thinking, those guys that got the original fantasy game and they like it, they like the format and that, well, they can get their models, they can get the old rule book, and they can play it. They can play the game GW's not going to mess with it. It's their game. It's their game to play. It's their game to manipulate the rules if they need to with the house rules, etc. I'm talking about obviously a fun side of things. Obviously, competition-wise, competitive-wise from tournaments and stuff, it's a totally different side of the story. But I'm talking about playing at home with your buddies and stuff. So I think the Age of Sigmar thing is good. I mean, on the whole, not just Age of Sigmar, but we're talking about like the state of 40k, power creep, blah blah. I think on the whole, everything that's happening is good. I'm very pleased that the Age of Sigmar release is out and GW are concentrating on that for a few months, hopefully, because it's almost a little bit of a relief that 40k isn't having too much happening to it at the moment, because it almost felt like it was getting out of hand. As you know, I still don't have the Eldar Codex because there's been so many releases, it's been pretty unbelievable. Now, I'm not putting GW down for that because obviously they've got a master plan, but I would probably like the releases to be a little bit slower, maybe. A new army every month, and it's just been a bit crazy, really. I'm not complaining because I was one of those guys that waited 10 years for a Necron Codex. I say kudos to GW for doing what they're doing, to be honest with you. I say good on them, keeping the hobby alive, keeping the excitement within their gaming systems alive. Although fantasy is dead, but you know what I mean. Hopefully, possibly. You'll see what comments I get from what I've just said. Okay, I need to stop the camera because the battery is just running out. Okay, so the next question is from Commissar Warwick, which looking forward to our game, which we've got coming up. It's going to be really, really cool. So keep an eye out for the battle report on that. That's going to obviously happen. But his question is, all the odd-numbered Star Trek films are terrible. Discuss. Also, what did you make of the new J.J. Abrams ones? Not sure if I've heard your views on them before. Okay, so let's start with the first one, a discussion on all the odd-numbered Star Trek films are terrible. No. Disagree really with that. I have sort of touched upon this previously, but Star Trek 1, the motion picture, which I know obviously a lot of people don't like, and yes, it's probably one of the weakest ones, but on the flip side of that, I think it's still good. I still like it, because it was a reboot of Star Trek. It's cinematic, it's old school type of film, in terms of the way it's shot, where Kirk is in the shuttle coming up to the Enterprise. It's like a 10-minute scene and that goes on forever and ever, but it's cinematic, and I think if you take it for what it is a good film. And then the other stuff just doesn't make sense, because then you go on to The Search for Spock, awesome film, I like it anyway. Then you go on to The Final Frontier, Star Trek 5, which I know again that got stated, but I actually really like that film. I think it's I'm just one of those people, probably just because I'm a fan, maybe, but I like all the Star Trek films. Anything that's Star Trek, really, I just like. And it's, as long as it's got a good story, which Star Trek's about storytelling, so yeah. So I totally disagree with that, I think, to be fair. Yeah. Also, what did you make of the new J.J. Abrams ones? I love them. I think they're awesome. I think the concept is fantastic, where they've rebooted it so it's the same but different. Works so well, because it just means that anyone can watch that film. The first one, anyone can watch that, get into Star Trek in a fresh new light. There's loads of stuff in there for the Star Trek fans. Like how Bones got his nickname, which to a new watcher would mean nothing, but to a Star Trek fan means a lot. So I think it's done really, really well. Love Chris Pine as Kirk. I think it's an awesome Kirk. Zacharin Quinton, whatever his name is, awesome Spock. Bones, the guy who plays Bones, again, I think the characters are fantastic. The only one that I didn't like, and I might be controversial here because a lot of people liked him in the film, is Simon Pegg. Now, before you throw your arms in the air, I liked Simon Pegg in the second film. I thought it was fantastic in the second film because in the second film they actually made him like Scotty. But in the first film he was absolutely nothing like Scotty. He wasn't Scotty. He was just like some random person. But the second film was fine. He was Scotty, the second film. So I don't know, maybe what I thought was general consensus, and they changed it around for the second film. But no, I love both films, and I've got the second film on 3D Blu-ray on my TV, and it's awesome. Love watching it in 3D. It's so good. Really, really like them. And yeah, they mesh the stories up a bit, but it doesn't matter. They can do it. They can do that because it's the same but different time. It's the same timeline, but it's a different. So it's good. I like them a lot. Going to be interesting to see what the new film's going to be like without Abrams doing it. And I'm also looking forward to seeing the Star Trek film by him as well, because it'll be interesting to see how he goes about that, because it's almost a competition between Star Trek and Star Wars. So I wonder what twists he's going to put on the Star Trek films. Anyway, great question. Thank you for that. Got to have a Star Trek question, haven't I? I think that was the only one actually. So thanks for that. Marcus Cuss 69. After Chaos, what would you pick next? I don't plan on picking anything next because I have too many armies. But if we're talking about 40k, then it has to be Dark Eldar. Excuse me. And the reason for that is no one in my gaming group has got Dark Eldar. I've never even seen Dark Eldar in action. The minis look cool, and why not? So Dark Eldar is sort of on the radar. My son, potentially, I'm thinking of trying to get him into Dark Eldar because I know he's into his Marines. He's got his Space Marine army. He's got his new Dark Angels army, and I know he likes Marines, but I think it would be good for him to have a Xenos type army. So one day in the future, maybe, and then it means we've got a Dark Eldar in the gaming group. I'm not sure I fancy taking my Tyranids up against Dark Eldar, but yeah, so I'd say Dark Eldar. Now stretching out of the realms of 40k, which this sounds really odd for me because I think you all know I'm a massive. I mean, for me, it was when I first started this YouTube thing. It was like 40k. That's it. It's like 40k, line drawn, nothing else. But you guys out there, you've been persuading me. What's holding me back to doing anything but 40k ultimately is money and time. But there's so many cool things that I really, really want to try, and maybe the future will hold them for me. Aliens versus Predator, that looked really cool. Not necessarily game, but just the fact that you've got the Alien versus Predator minis. That looks awesome. Terminator, the new Terminator game, that looks wicked. 6mm, I really want to have a go at some sort of 6mm. I'm thinking of Games Workshop Epic, keeping it in the family, but I'm not au fait, not au fait, don't know if that's the word, but anyway, I'm not unopen to a non-GW 6mm system and having a go at that. I must admit, things like Napoleonics and Black Powder and stuff, whilst I enjoy seeing your guys' stuff on it, that really just doesn't hold any interest for me. Yeah, so Dreadfleet. Actually thinking of Dreadfleet as well, because I've been enjoying the Man of War stuff a lot, and thought it'd be pretty cool to have Dreadfleet as well. So many actually that I would say yes. Out of 40k, there are quite a number of things that actually do interest me a lot, but like I said, it's time and money really that's stopping me. But who knows the future? Great question, thank you, Marcus69. Coming to the last couple of questions now. The next one is from Martin McNeil, also known as, or now known as, Wargames. The Wargamer, formerly known as Martin McNeil. If you could change one game mechanic of 40k, what would it be? I had to think about this one. Game mechanic. So, obviously it doesn't mean like the rules, does it? That just means like a mechanic, like how the assault phase works, that type of thing. So, I would say, and again I might be controversial here, I don't know, but I'm really not into the psychic things, 40k, that much. I like psychic powers in 40k, but I think they were better when they were less. When you had things like Eldar, who are the psychic power army, you know, when they said they're doing fortune and stuff, and that was cool, that was good. And yeah, you know, Blood Angels might have a librarian that can have some psychic powers, and that, you know, I think the psychic powers in the limited context of what it used to be was better than everyone's got psychic powers now, and the psychic powers can actually be really cheesy. And my son has got his beady eyes on this new formation, the psychic formation. He's been raving on about it. I don't know, where you re-roll the powers and then they work on a 2+, and you can choose what powers you have. I don't really know the formation, but I have a feeling he's going to try that. That's fair play, you know, give him some fun with that, but it's not really for me, the psychic phase. I know they do still have that sort of balance of psychic armies, no psychic armies, like Monecrons, for example, don't have anything, basically. A Gloom Prism, well. But when I go up against, I mean, it's just hard, but that's one thing I would change. I change that to me a bit more basic. You know, a few powers for the particular armies, and just change it somehow. Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of the psychic phase, or the psychic power scenario. Okay, so let's have a look at the video because it's flashing at me. No, it is recording, so I'm not quite sure why it's flashing it. Right, okay, last question is from Jim White. Humorous question. Has your daughter seen your ocean cloth? Did you think it would be a lovely colour for a dress? She hasn't seen it actually, because I brought it home from work, and that night I went around my buddy's house and I had it in the bag and I just took it around my buddy's house. So she hasn't seen it. But you're right, it is a spot on colour for a Frozen dress. So I think it was a good job I did hide it from her. That's it. That is all the questions done. So really enjoyed making this Q&A as always. Great fun. So thank you for all your questions. Once again, please send me some questions in with some comments. Really appreciate that, and we can hopefully have another episode. Yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for watching.